Hello, everyone. Welcome to Build's Character. I am Todd Kenreck. I am joined by our community manager and a D&D enthusiast slash expert, Lauren Urban, and we are going to be talking about Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and the subclasses that you can find in there. And we are going to start off with one that Lauren has played quite a bit of in Unearthed Arcana, and I actually played with her. And that is the Soulknife. So can you describe what the Soulknife is in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything?
Psychic blades. I mean, really, that's all you need to know. You get to manifest psychic blades out of your mind and stab people with it. It's super cool.
That's the show, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.
Yep, there you go. Bye, everyone. Yeah,
Psychic blades.
I got a bunch of other stuff that I can talk about with it, but that's basically what drew me to it when they put out the Unearthed Arcana and they showed off the Soulknife. I was like, yep, that's who I want to be. That's what I want to do, and that's the deal. You do get a bunch of other psychic options, and one of the powers that you get very early on in the subclass also really appealed to me as a rogue because a lot of the time when you're playing a rogue, it's either you are the huge damage dealer in the party, right, or you get a couple of other like investigator options or help action options, things like that. They're very combat focused characters, but or they're investigators. But there's a power that you get with the Soulknife that I found really appealing for role play that you don't often get for rogue. So
yeah,
and shall we just start going through it?
Yeah, we see that in a lot of the subclasses in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. It seems like almost every subclass has something they can do for the party, which I very much appreciate. It is definitely a theme, as is proficiency bonuses being used to tell you how many times you can use an ability. But like this particular assassin, the Soulknife, instead of using physical weapons, does manifest a psychic blade. There are a lot of governments, they describe it as being very happy to employ a Soulknife as a spy using their mental powers, or also for the fact that psychic blades don't necessarily leave any wounds, so they're very effective assassins, probably leaving a lot of people scratching their heads as to exactly how this person died. They also describe this rogue as being very friendly with, say, being a Githyanki. You can see a lot of Githyanki being soul knives assassins, essentially. So let's go ahead and dive in. We've got at level 3, which is when you get to choose your subclass when you're a rogue, you gain psionic power. Can you walk me through this psionic power?
Yeah, and actually, we literally just got a question in chat from Slip One Shot. Has Soulknife changed much from UA to Tasha's? And right away, the mechanics change, even though the flavor of the subclass hasn't. So the way it worked in UA, the talent dice that you were using, you basically got one, and you were rolling it, and it would step up and down, and you would manage it that way. And that's kind of how they were doing a lot of their psychic powers. But in this case, what you're getting is now a selection of dice that you're going to use in a bunch of different ways, which I like this a little bit more because it not only is slightly more practical, but it now matches up with a lot of the other features that you see in a lot of other classes and subclasses about, oh, this gives you dice to use instead of just having this other dice that's sitting off to the side that you roll every once in a while. So
now I did like that psychic die from UA quite a bit, but I felt like it was kind of a departure from D&D in the fact that it was like almost like a brand new mechanic. I thought it was really great and fun, and it kind of captured the ebb and flow of psionic power. But I think for simplicity's sake, I think this was a move in the right direction.
Yeah, and for some of it, it worked really well. And I agree that I liked that different mechanic because this kind of character should feel different than playing a wizard or playing, a general magic user. But there were a couple of things that I think this version, the final version, it's been refined and it works better. And we'll get to that in this power because at 3rd level, you get a lot, and you get a lot of things that are kind of your bread and butter for the rogue. So the first thing you get is this pool of dice that's equal to twice your proficiency bonus. And that pool becomes the group of dice that you're going to use to fuel a lot of these effects that you want.
Right.
And they're kind of like what the fighter has now, and where you can use some of their the fighter dice in order to fuel extra damage or give extra effects. And so now you've got this psychic energy pool. You get all of the dice back when you finish a long rest. And then as a bonus action, you can get one of those dice back. So kind of at the last minute, if you're, up against the ropes and you've run out of power, and you can kind of just grab one last dice to use. And then as you level up, the dice, this is where the dice also increases in size, which we saw from the first way that the psychic dice were used. So you get more of it depending on your proficiency bonus, and then it goes from a d6 to a d8 to a d10 to all of a sudden you're rolling a d12 like you're a barbarian. It's fun. So yeah.
There's two uses for this. It's really great. And I'm very glad that that psychic die does evolve and scale with your character. But the first one is psi bolstered knack, which, boy, if you're a rogue, you're already really good at a lot of things. But when your psychic training fails you, you can use your psychic power your psionic power to help. If you fail an ability using a skill or a tool which you are proficient with, you can actually roll one psionic energy die and add the number rolled to that check. And that can potentially push you over the edge into that area of success. That's exceptionally helpful for any rogue who's, using your thief tools, stealth, trying to be, charismatic in a situation. And I like that you could flavor all these moments of like I'm messing up, I'm screwing up, being stealthy, but then you're like, maybe you're about to maybe you knocked over a bottle, and I can envision that bottle like suddenly hovering and being put back onto this table right before it smashes and alerts the guards. So I think there's a lot of flavorful ways when you screw up a skill check as this rogue, to describe how that psychic energy, that psionic energy, essentially kind of like corrects the situation. Like if you fail on a persuasion check, maybe you do kind of that Obi-Wan Kenobi wave, right? And then they believe you a little bit more.
And there's an extra part of this, which we'll see in a lot of Tasha's subclasses that they've started adding in. You expend the die only if the roll succeeds, which is also really nice.
Really nice.
Yeah, especially at lower levels where you may only have a couple of these dice and you're like, oh, all right, I failed this check. Do I want to use the dice? And so now it's less of a, do I want to gamble and lose this and now get nothing and just have lost this power? Or do I want to give up this dice in order to try to succeed? And I personally like that. I think that it encourages you to not be so precious with those dice.
Exactly. There are some interesting maneuvers that we find in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. The Battlemaster maneuvers that you can also acquire by getting a feat. And one of the interesting things about those is there's two skill-based ones where you can be more persuasive, right? Or you're better at stealth checks and initiative. But when it comes to those, you just lose them. You lost that point. So it is more of a gamble.
Yeah.
This is very nice because it's such a big part of this class, and I mean the subclass. And I totally agree. It's just I like it when I don't waste things, right?
And it is it is a big part of the class. Like you said right at the beginning, rogues are already really good at skill checks. That's their one of their big jams. So this just helps reinforce that for this character.
Okay, can you walk me through Psychic Whispers? This is a big game changer for rogues.
Yeah. So this is the other reason when I put Callie together, my Warforged rogue, this was the other main reason that I picked the subclass. And it has definitely changed with the way that the psychic dice work with the new the updated Soulknife. And this is one of the main reasons I like the update. So with Psychic Whispers, you establish telepathic communication between yourself and others. Perfect for quiet infiltration. As an action, choose one or more creatures you can see, up to a number of creatures equal to your proficiency bonus. So there's that proficiency bonus again. And then roll 1 psychic energy dice. For a number of hours equal to the number rolled, the chosen creatures can speak telepathically with you, and you can speak telepathically with them. So we'll get into kind of the nitty gritty of what the telepathic communication involves. As far as I remember, that's still the same, but the mechanics of how many people can be in your psychic link and how long have definitely changed, because it used to be you got everybody for an hour, but you rolled this dice and how many showed up on the die was how many you could have in the psychic link. The problem with that was that because the dice, they don't really go away. The old way it worked was you'd roll a d6, and if you got a 6, you'd get this awesome result, but then you'd lose the dice. It'd be gone. If you got a 1, it would step up to the next version of the dice. You'd have a d8 now to use. So you'd have this bad result, but you'd get, for the next time. And while I liked the mechanic in theory, in the way that it talked about the way that psychic energy can work, it kind of didn't work with this, because what would happen would be I'd say, all right, we're going to activate the psychic link. There are 4 of us in the group, so I just need to roll a 3 or higher. And I would basically, because there was also no limit on the number of times you could establish the psychic link in the original UA, it was just basically me rolling the dice until I got either a high enough number or a 1. It was me rolling 2, 2, 3, 3, 6. Yay, there we go. Or a 6, I'm sorry. So it was just me rolling a couple of times until I got one of those numbers that I needed, or until the dice went away. And so now there's a very concrete, how many people do you get? Roll the dice. Or how many hours do you get them? Roll the dice. That's how many hours you get. Who do you get? What's your proficiency bonus? And so there's no like
chaos,
wishy-washy and
weirdness, like you and I don't know, you farmer
and Bob over there, yeah.
Yeah, but do you want to hear what I have to say?
But now you're just
unnecessarily chaotic. It felt.
And now you're rolling this dice once, you're getting 1 result, and you're done. You're not rolling it again and again until you get the number that you need, or until you lose it. So
Understandably a bit finicky on that front. It was pretty funny because when you roll low and then you're like, you have to exclude someone, it kind of like hurts.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of 3rd level features, and we see this again in Tasha's quite a bit. You hit 3rd level, you can do all these things, and that also includes another core piece of this: psychic blades. At 3rd level, you can manifest your psionic power as shimmering blades of psychic energy. Whenever you take the attack action, you can manifest a psychic blade with one of your free hands and make an attack with that blade. That blade is a simple melee weapon with the finesse and thrown properties, so you can toss this at someone. It has a normal range of 60 feet and no long range. On a hit, it deals psychic damage equal to 1d6 plus the ability modifier you used for the attack roll. The blade vanishes immediately after it hits or misses the target and leaves no mark, even if it deals damage.
So this is
very key in some story situations.
Yeah, or just creepy in general.
Just creepy when because honestly, listen, if a whole bunch of bodies are showing up and none of them have any wounds, they're and for some reason they know a soul knife is in town, it is kind of a bigger indication, right?
Oh yeah,
because not everyone probably died of a heart attack. And then on top of this, after you attack with the blade, you can make a melee or ranged weapon attack with a 2nd psychic blade as a bonus action on the same turn, provided that the other hand is free. That's super cool. It's the bonus attack is a 1d4 instead of a 1d6, but you're just quick with these blades, and I think that kind of shows. It's nice seeing this 2 weapon fighting type of rogue that doesn't need to really double down on the feats and stuff like that to get it. But what I also like about it is it just kind of shows you how quick just having air in your hands basically can make you.
And this is the same as the updated version of the UA Soulknife. And what I like about this is the fact that it gives you all of the options that you need as a rogue. It gives you a ranged option, it gives you a melee option, it gives you an offhand option. It manages to basically be the same amount of damage you're going to be doing with a regular weapon. You can
Right.
still get your sneak attack with it. And now you're also getting psychic damage, which not a lot of creatures can resist psychic damage. And especially at lower levels where being able to do damage that is magic damage, or to get past resistances to just slashing, bludgeoning, and piercing damage, this is really strong. And it just reinforces that idea of this is a rogue that's out to murder things.
And it's I mean, and you used it to great effect in our role playing of just like of being this very innocent warforged that was able to generate these kind of holographic psychic blades, but constantly, like every time there was like a trouble, just you know, the
You gotta be
psychic
ready.
blades would go up. Do
Yeah.
I start killing now?
And that was also where the telepathic communication is really nice, because then you've just got that line to your friends that you can always wait now,
No.
now,
You are the
now.
hub. I mean, that's what's nice about the Soul Knife is, though it is very assassin flavored. What I do like is that they have that one ability you wouldn't expect. Um, and I feel like they do this in a lot of the other subclasses as well, where you're like, oh, really? I get to do that? Okay. I would not have guessed, but I'm very happy about it. So for you to be this, excuse me, this telekinetic hub for your entire party gives you a second role. And I think we see this a lot with these subclasses in Tashas is they give you the option to be two different things, to have two different effective uses for your entire party that
Oh
are
yeah.
very often almost opposite.
Yeah. Well, and while they call out the idea of the perfect for quiet infiltration for the whispers, and that's kind of the cliche use is, all right, I'm going to be the rogue, I'm going to sneak ahead, I'm going to go scout things out.
Right.
And this helps tremendously, because now it's no longer that awkward moment of the rest of the party standing around not knowing what's going on with the rogue who's disappeared, who they don't even see because they rolled so well in their stealth. So now there is at least one, you can send those messages back and get that. But then having that out of game moment, out of combat and sneaking moment, and where you're just around in town, it's like, all right, you're gonna go off in that direction, I'm gonna go off here because you gotta go talk to that person, and I gotta go get some food, but we can keep in communication with each other. So having that kind of facility is really nice.
Yeah, it's a very good point, because how many times have we watched the rogue go off and like, well, he's going to, he or she is going to have to get there. And then they're going to have to come back and tell us what the DM told them.
Yep. And you're all waiting for that moment, and where like things go wrong, and then the rogue gets in trouble, and do you have to run into, and like that can be fun. But if you're looking for something slightly different, if you're looking for if you want to try to avoid that that event that happens a lot, then this is a really good way to do it,
If
and it's fun.
it's a way of bringing the party together, even if someone split the party. So,
Exactly.
yeah, so that's pretty fantastic. Now, at a ninth level, we see our next subclass feature. There's a good reason for this, because rogues are exceptionally feature heavy. So these are a little bit more spaced out. Tell me about the soul blades.
Yeah, so this basically gives you some extra features for when you hit things with your knives, which is fun. So, and this is also something else that you can use that psychic energy pool for. Homing strikes, if you make an attack roll with your psychic blade and miss, you can roll one psychic energy die and add the number rolled to the attack roll. If this causes the attack to hit, you expend the psychic energy dice. So once again, you use it, and you only lose it if you succeed, which is once again awesome, because as I said, it doesn't want you to be precious with those dice. It wants you to use them and throw them all over the place. And you you don't want to be the person who gets to the end of the day as a soul knife and still have a collection of dice that you could have used but you didn't because you were afraid of failing.
Yeah,
um
exactly. The flavor on this is great, right? Like, again, I can see you throwing your soul knife and it's clearly going to miss, and it just kind of curves maybe towards its target instead, kind of like that arcane archer feature. You just have these, I mean, it really is homing strikes.
Yeah.
So, or maybe you're bouncing the blade off the wall and it bounces back and hits the target in the head. There's a lot of fun ways to flavor that.
I'd always pictured if I'd gotten to this point with my character, I'd always pictured it as way more creepy in where the knife just stops in midair and changes trajectory and then
Oh,
goes where you because why? Because it's all in your head, right? You've created this out of your mind. And so
mm-hmm.
if in the middle of the flight you realize, oh, I didn't throw that correct, you just pause and do a little bit of an adjustment in the air and then you're in the matrix.
Not to make a call out to idle champions, but like even in that has a floating knife that just hovers there and then he tosses it. I think that's like a creepy way to do it as well. Like your soul knife just hovers next to you
Yeah.
and then just goes blink, like points, almost like the arrow for Yandu, and
Yeah.
then like hones in on the target and smashes it. Then we have the psychic teleportation.
Yep. So as a bonus action, you manifest one of your psychic blades, expending one psychic energy die and roll it. Throw the blade at an unoccupied space you can see up to a number of feet away equal to 10 times the number rolled. You then teleport to that space and the blade vanishes. I love this because what does a rogue need but more ways to get around the battlefield? Like,
Exactly.
you got your dash and your disengage and your hide and your bonus action and all your stuff. And now you could just throw a knife somewhere and not just to maneuver around the battlefield, but you have to think about, how far can I throw this blade? Can I angle it in a way and where it's going to land on top of a ledge that I couldn't normally reach? Can I toss it around the corner? Can I, dash it under a space that's too small for me to go, but I can see on the other side of it and I can throw the knife there. So this gives a lot of movement options. And the fact that it's 10 times the number rolled is pretty nice because even if you roll like crap, you're still going pretty far.
Now this feels very heavily inspired by I actually started designing a subclass because of watching Kingsglaive, the Final Fantasy animated film. They've used this constantly. All the warriors throw their knife and can teleport to where they've thrown the knife. It's such a smart and cool feature to see visually. I wouldn't say it's my favorite Final Fantasy movie, but it's worth watching if you want to visualize how this effect is taking place around a battlefield. There's some really smart ways to use this, and it makes you so tactical. And I can tell it. I knew from the beginning, like Lauren was so excited to just get to that feature. I think it hurts you to this day that you never got to level up Callie high enough to be able to teleport around.
It's my own fault. But I will say, like, whether or not you like Final Fantasy as a game, it always has flair and it always has style, and it is always worth watching any of the animated stuff, any of the cutscenes, any watch any Final Fantasy if only to see the style behind some of the stuff that they do, because it is such a wellspring of ideas for exactly what you're talking about. We did have a quick question from the chat. Call sign chaos. Does this mean that if you are hidden and you do damage, do you have to rehide? Yep. So as a rogue, and the way the hiding rules work is that once you attack, once you take an action, it reveals your location. However, rogues can hide on a bonus action. So if you get into a nice rhythm in where you are hidden and then you attack first, and then you can hide on your bonus action, then you're just always hidden. And it depends on the flavor of the battlefield. It depends on your actions, but it's a nice feature that rogues have. And certainly if you are if you're running around with soul knives, you have a lot of options when it comes to where you can hide when you want to just throw a knife somewhere and be there. So
absolutely. And that's a nice segue into our 13th level soul knife feature. So at 13th level, you can weave the veils of psychic static to mask yourself. As an action, you can magically become invisible along with everything that you're wearing for up to 1 hour until you dismiss this effect. The invisibility ends immediately after you deal damage to a creature or you force a creature to make a saving throw. Once you use this feature, you cannot use it again until after a long rest, unless you expend a psychic energy die to use this feature again.
The interesting thing about this, it's invisibility, but it is more powerful than your normal invisibility because yes, it ends if you deal damage or force a creature to make a saving throw, but you can still disarm traps, unlock doors, you can still take potions, you can still do any of the actions, bonus actions, or movement that you can, as long as essentially you're not attacking a creature. So this is kind of a rogue's sneaking through things rogue's dream right here. I get to just sneak, and as long as I don't get into battle, the invisibility doesn't break for an hour.
It's terrifying.
This is amazing.
This is that the infiltrator really. The assassin that's in the player's handbook is good and everything, but like if I wanted to play like a really great assassin, I would go Soulknife for sure, or at least being able to have that sneak into any kind of situation, relay information. I mean, you could sneak into a tower, tell everyone what's going on. You're essentially everyone's familiar at this point, and you can go invisible on top of everything else. Or if you fail a stealth check and people see you and they start chasing after you and your hide action doesn't work or whatever, you can just poof, you're gone. So
Just poof, you're gone.
just poof, you're gone.
Just poof, I like that. That's the theme of rogues. Just poof, you're gone. We had one more roguish question from Mikey G. Does it also apply the sneak attack? Or does this also apply to sneak attack? And is the sneak attack damage considered? Is this damage considered? Basically, they're asking about sneak attack. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Answer is yes.
The psychic knives, they are both a finesse and a ranged weapon. And for sneak attack to work, you have to be attacking with a finesse or a ranged weapon. And you need to, the basic rules are you have to have another enemy within 5 feet of the person you're attacking, or have advantage on the target. So as long as those things come together, your psychic blades can do sneak attack damage.
Which again is a good point, because if you have the ability to be invisible, that attack that you use against someone has advantage.
Yep, absolutely.
Your invisibility drops, but that gives you automatic advantage. You can go assassinate on your own if you need to, or at least get the drop on somebody. So that brings us to Rend Mind. This is the 17th and final feature of the Soulknife. Can you walk me through that?
Yeah, so you sweep your psychic blades directly through a creature's mind, which makes sense because if you're going to throw psychic blades at someone, go for the head. When you use your psychic blades to deal sneak attack damage to a creature, you can force that target to make a wisdom saving throw with a DC. If they fail, the target is stunned for a minute. The stunned target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect. Once you use this feature, you can do so after you finish a long rest, or you can expend 3 psychic energy dice to use it again. So this stunned is nasty. Stunned is horrific. If you've played it in a campaign, if you played in a game where your character's been stunned, it's bad. But it's so much fun when you can do it to a monster. So having that chance to stun the target, I mean, monks know this quite well. So it's super powerful. It's a way to shut down potentially an adversary in a fight where even them having reactions or getting to do one more turn can be deadly. And a lot of times for some of the most deadly creatures that you're going to be encountering in a D&D fight, just getting that one round drop on them is all you really need to gain enough an advantage to just destroy them. So having that use can be super clutch. And while 3 psychic energy dice seems like a lot, because remember you're getting them based on your proficiency bonus, you're at 17th level. You've probably got a lot of these, and this feels like the kind of thing you do use in the boss fight. You do use for that one creature that you just have to knock out immediately, and you can't take any chances. So I think this is super neat, and I'm actually surprised that there's not more of this kind of psychic manipulation in this class, but I think this is a perfect capstone-ish ability, and yeah, when you stun a creature, that's super bad. I mean, as a reminder, you're incapacitated, you can't move, you can barely speak, you automatically fail strength and dexterity saving throws, and all attack rolls against you have advantage. And because they can't do the save until the end of their next turn, that means for the entire turn, they can't take actions or reactions. And reactions can be a big deal in some fights. So I think this is super cool. I think this is a great way of doing an end an end ability for the soul knife. And yeah, always aim for the head.
Always aim for the head. Yeah, this is a fantastic rogue. You know, I fall in love with every subclass. This is definitely a rogue I would want to play. I actually find the Phantom Rogue to be a little too creepy for me. If such a thing is possible.
The
So
Phantom certainly has more of the baked in creepy. I think really the soul knife, the only creepy thing about it is the idea that they don't leave marks. And you
yeah,
can lean into it, but
yeah, you can lean into it, but this is probably my favorite rogue in Tasha's for that kind of. It really just builds on itself and its abilities all the way up. You know, again, you're that telekinetic hub. You've got this psychic energy. You don't leave wounds. You can go invisible. You can destroy someone's mind. I love all of it. It's just very thematic and fun, and makes you kind of a different party member, I would say, than some of the other rogues.
and
So
then and then I would highly recommend that you lean into the funny bit, which is the fact that your telepathic communication is one way. It's just with multiple creatures. So if I am connected to 4 other people, those 4 other people aren't connected to each other. They're all connected to me, which in our game ended up being the role play behind it was that I'd say that Callie would just repeat what everybody was saying to each other in a really bad interpretation of their voice. But yeah, you do have to remember that. And I found it fun to lean into that moment of like, especially if there were 2 characters in the party trying to snipe at each other, and every once in a while Callie would just get really annoyed and be like,
that's
I'm
right.
just not gonna relay that information because I would like to stop having to be the go-between between the 2 of them being an old married couple. So
I do recall this happening to me, I think.
it's like Avern and Freely like to, snipe at each other or something. But yeah, I think that's also something really interesting and fun to lean into is that psychic communication. But yes, definitely try a soul knife. It is super fun.
Tasha's Cauldron of Everything is available now on D&D Beyond. Purchase before January 5th to unlock the Cauldron dice set, as well as character sheet backdrops, themes and frames.